Hi folks, my name is Bill Cook. Today is April 18th, 2020. Pandemic is starting to level off. Middle of April. Springtime's here. People are wanting to get outside. They're tired of being confined to quarters. They're wanting to get back to life. And it looks like the country's going to start opening up end of April, 1st of May. One of the things to realize as real estate investors, as the deal structuring techniques we were using 5-6 weeks ago may not be the best deal structuring tools to use over the next 3 to 6 months. So what are some of the structures that Kim and I think will be working well moving forward? Subject to deals, straight options, master leasing, buying a property with leasing out a property but getting an option to be able to purchase it at some point in the future. Getting owner financing when you buy a property. Buying notes from private money lenders who are holding paper. Right now, they'd rather have cash. So creative deal structuring is its own language. So what we're gonna do right now is I'm gonna go over 5 offers I've put together over the last 5 days, or over the last 7 days. And as I give you what the seller's position is, or the buyer's, in some cases, the buyer's position is, I want you to stop the tape, and I want you to sit back and ask yourself, how would you structure this deal? What tools would you use to make this happen? Because truly, creative deal structuring is its own language. It's a language that needs to be learned, and it takes a decade or more to really master the language. So let's go to the offer I made about 2 days ago. I was over at my friend Jody's house. He's my computer guy. He was helping me do some computer work for me. Anyway, he had asked me, he says, when you come over, there's a house 2 houses away from me that's for sale. I'm interested in it. Would you mind taking a look at it with me? I said, sure. And what he really wanted was to watch me walk around the house and look at it and just have me talk out loud, just trying to learn what it is that's going through my head when I'm looking at the house. Well, needless to say, that wasn't enough. We had to put together a written offer. I mean, if you're gonna go look at a house, why not make a written offer? I mean, that's why you're there, and that's why you're there. That's what the seller wants. So in this particular case, the seller, his mom had passed away, I think back in November. And he had this house and he had it up for sale. He did not want to work with realtors. So there's a FSBO sign in the yard. The thing is, the FSBO sign is way off the street and it's kind of up a hill. So it's really hard to see it. You kind of got to know that it's there. But anyway, he wants to get this thing sold. And I think now that the pandemic is here, again, the cheese moved, I think he is wanting to sell it sooner versus later. Before, if he sold it, that's great. And right now, when someone wants to see it, because he lives in Atlanta, he has a neighbor come over and show it, or one of his friends come over and show it. And they're kind of getting tired of showing it and him not taking any offers. So his asking price is $145,000 on this home. That's a fair price. That's right at fair market value on this home. So how would you structure this deal? So stop the tape. What would you use? What tools would you use? Okay, so this is the offer I put together. I put together something called a teeter-totter offer. And the reason why is I've not sat down with the seller yet face-to-face. When I sit down and talk to someone, usually I'm going to develop it into one offer put together based on what it is they're wanting done. But in this case, all I had was voicemail. So I couldn't talk to him about what he wanted. So I had to make the best of it. So I used a teeter-totter offer. So another word for that is a price terms offer. So think of a teeter-totter, price, terms. And in this case, if he wanted $145,000, my answer was, yeah, in fact, I'll pay you $150,000. Why would you pay someone more than the asking price? Because you're going to give them price, but what you get is how do you pay the $150? That's terms. So this is how I make so many owner financed offers, is I just put together a teeter-totter offer. So I'll let him pick the price as long as I get to say how we're going to pay him. Or if he sits back and says he wants all cash, so now what he's asking for is terms, how he's going to get paid. I'll give him all cash, but I get to name the price, and that's probably going to be somewhere about $100,000 for that home. Because again, it was his mom's house. It needs a good bit of updating. There's a good rehab to do there, but great house, great neighborhood, great location, great schools, great shopping. So the offer I put together was, we'd be happy to pay him the $145,000 price. I would give him $10,000 down and then make monthly payments to him of $650 a month until that mortgage was paid. Again, I also made him a cash offer, which was $100,000. So don't be scared of making your first offer what the seller's asking price is, because you'll be surprised how many times they say yes to that. Now, let's kind of move this forward. If he said yes to the deal, I'm going to make sure that Jody buys the property, not me. The reason why is Jody is on W-2 income, and so is his wife. And by owning the rental property, they'll gather the tax benefits by owning the rental property, and that will help them to keep more of their take-home pay because of the write-offs that come with rentals. On top of that, Jody's kind of been looking at rentals now for a while. He's been my computer guy for 15 years. So I think he's kind of thought about it more and more as he's gotten older, saying, hey, you know, having a couple of rental properties probably isn't a bad idea. So I'm going to have Jody own it. And at closing, again, so Jody's the way the closing will work is the owner of the property will give Jody a warranty deed, so he owns the property, he and his wife, and Jody's going to give the owner a note and then a deed of trust, also known as a mortgage in some states, but a deed of trust, and that just secures the promise of payments to the property. So the property's the collateral for the loan. So if Jody doesn't make the payments, the lender can foreclose, get the property back. Now, that kind of leaves me out in the cold. So let's see how I work myself in. In this case, at closing, I want Jody is going to give me a 30-year option to buy that property at any time in the 30 years for whatever the balance of the mortgage is then. So in other words, every month that Jody makes a mortgage payment, that purchase price goes down a little bit. My purchase price goes down a little bit. And then with each month that passes, as the property increases in value, do you see where I'm creating equity as time goes by? So my purchase price doesn't have to be a number. It can just say, for whatever the balance is on the mortgage, when and if I exercise my option to do that, to exercise my option to buy the property. Now, also a part of the option agreement, and I may do this, it'll be in the option agreement, Jody's going to agree that as the monthly payments come in, because there's going to be about $400 a month in cash flow after all expenses are paid. So Jody's going to get 2/3, and I'm going to get 1/3 of the rent. So we're going to split the rents. And remember, Jody owns it. He's getting the cash benefits, but he's also taking care of the property. And then finally, if I do exercise the option, and then one day I do sell the property, whatever we get from it, we'll split the profits 50-50. So my purchase price will be the balance of the mortgage. Then if I turn around and sell it, whatever we make, we split that 50-50. So do you see where that's a really good deal for Jody and where that's a really good deal for me? And it's also a good deal for the homeowner because he's going to be getting monthly payments in, and I don't know that he wants a big chunk of cash. It may be that monthly payments are what he's looking for. And you always hear with options, you have to give consideration, option consideration. Just understand that option consideration doesn't have to be cash. In this case, the consideration is I structure the deal. So you have to value, as a real estate investor, your ability to creatively structure deals. And you will find that you can cut yourself into deals just because you know how to put them together, or you know the right people who can put them together. But you can cut yourself into deals that way. So that was the first offer I made in the last 7 days. Let's go to offer number 2. I got a call from a Carolina couple. They have a tenant who moved into their house. And the tenant situation is they moved over from another county, and the reason why is their daughter had an issue at school, and evidently it's pretty bad. And they wanted out of that school district, they wanted out of that house. So they own their house in the other school district, but they just want to be done. They don't care about it, they're just done. They've also made some bad financial decisions, so they're kind of in a bind. So they're in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. So these people have moved in to this Carolina couple's rental home because it's in a good school district they want to be in. The payoff on the property, as it stands right now, is $145,000, $150,000. The value of the property is about $230,000, so there's a good bit of equity here. And they have a mortgage on the property. It's a 30-year fixed rate mortgage at 4% interest. And as a rental, this property will cash flow about $250 a month after all the expenses are paid. So you have good equity and you have good cash flow. This is going to be a good property. And you have people who own the home who don't want the home anymore. They just want to be done. So how would you structure this deal? What deal structuring tools would you use? Turn off the video, think this thing through. What would you do? Okay, so this is the way I put the deal together. First of all, I told the couple to master lease the seller's home. Because it's in Chapter 13 bankruptcy, and I don't like to be around bankruptcy judges or bankruptcy trustees, and if the property sells, there's going to be, there can be questions that are asked, and so therefore I don't want to buy the property. Not now, not while it's in Chapter 13. So instead, what I would do is just do a master lease. So that's where I lease it from the owners of the property, and I have the right to lease it to someone else. Now my lease payment is going to be for whatever the mortgage payment is. So whatever their mortgage payment is, that will be my lease payment. And that lease payment, I'm going to send to their lender. I'm not going to send the payment to them and then wait for them to give it to their lender. I'm going to do that straight away. Okay, I'm also going to agree to pay the property taxes on the property, pay the insurance on the property, and I'll cover any repairs. So do you see that this takes all the headache of that home? Remember, these people want it done with this home. But this takes, even though I'm a tenant, it takes all their headaches away. So they don't have to worry about a mortgage payment, they don't have to worry about repairs, they don't have to worry about the home. Also, I told this couple, get a purchase option. In other words, have the right to buy that home anytime in the next 30 years for the then balance of the mortgage. This is like the deal you just saw. So their purchase price will be for whatever the mortgage balance will be if and when they exercise their option. So again, with each payment, their purchase price is going down, and these are payments they're making. And over the course of time, the property will go up in value. So this is a great way to capture both amortization and appreciation. Also, I'm going to secure the lease and the option to the property. In this case, is where they are is a mortgage state. So I'm going to use a mortgage recorded in the courthouse to secure both the lease, which is a promise, and the option, which is a promise. And that's what mortgages and deeds of trust do. They're going to secure a promise. Usually it's a note, a promissory note, but it doesn't have to be. And then also another part of the agreement is going to be, if and when they do purchase the property, they can buy it subject to the seller's mortgage, wherever the balance is then, but subject to their mortgage if there is a balance. Now what a subject to deal is when you buy a property and the property goes into your name, but the seller's mortgage is not paid off. You're not assuming that mortgage. Instead, what you're doing is you're agreeing to make the seller's mortgage payments on the seller's mortgage for the seller until the seller's mortgage is paid off one day in the future. And you're probably thinking, why would anybody ever agree to that? It's because it's someone, usually the people who agree with that are someone who don't want the house anymore, or they need to sell fast. And finally, so while we're in the accord, while we all agree to what's being done, I'm going to go ahead and get all the documents signed and put them into an escrow folder held by their attorney if they use attorney, or escrow agent if they use escrow agent. But that means everything's going to be signed, everything's going to be filled out, but the dates for the closing. So if and when these people do exercise their option, they don't have to go try to find this couple if they're somewhere else. Everything's sitting there in the folder. So if they do exercise the option, they take in a check, or well, in this case, they pay off they buy the property subject to the mortgage, and when they're able to do that, then they get the property. But if the option expires without them having bought the property, then also in the escrow file is a quitclaim deed the investors put in the file that just says, hey, we did not exercise our option, so we're quitting our claim to this property, and that will get filed in the courthouse. So the one thing to remember is, if you ever do get a lease option on a property, a lease gives you use, an option gives you the right to buy it at some point in the future, and you're agreeing to pay the property taxes and the insurance, and you're going to cover all the repairs. Did you know that according to the IRS that you actually have interest in that property? That you can do it, it's your home. If it's your home, and you can write off the mortgage interest even. And what most people don't realize is that there's a difference between tax law. So when it comes down to you making payments, this involves the IRS, and title law, because that has everything to do with court systems and warranty deeds and who actually owns a home. And I know, just listen to myself say this, you're sitting back going, what is he talking about? Our website is billingkimcook.com. And if you go to it and you look at the top, you'll see a little button about Bill and Kim Cook. And click on the button and you'll see our bio, and you really don't care about our bio, and that's fine. But look below that and you'll see our timeline. See how long it took us to learn how to do leases and options and subject to deals and owner carries and teeter-totter offers. See how long it took for us to master the art, master the language of creative deal structuring. So it takes a long time. So as you're hearing this, if you're frustrated and you're going, I don't know what he's even talking about, it's because you haven't learned the language yet. But will you? Do you want to? And that really becomes your choice. Okay, third offer we made this week. This was to an investor in Ohio, Columbus, I believe. Anyway, so he has a duplex in Columbus, and he was approached by someone who lives in the area, and that buyer wanted to buy his duplex. Now, his duplex is not for sale. He's in the process of rehabbing, almost done rehabbing it, but someone else wanted to own it and said, would you sell this thing? And that buyer offered to buy the duplex for $78,000. So my question for you, how would you structure that deal? If you were the owner of this duplex, and by the way, you have $66,000 into this deal, so between the mortgage for what you bought it for and the repairs you put into it, you're into this for $66,000, and all of a sudden someone comes along out of the blue and offers you $78,000 in a pandemic market. What would you do? Turn off the camera. They get through. How would you structure this deal? Okay. So when I talk to them, after understanding both their situation and understand the buyer situation, I said the best thing you can do is don't accept their $78,000 offer. Instead, sell them the property for $66,000. So why would I have them sell the property for $12,000 less than what they're asking? You might want to turn off the tape again and think that one through. It's because for the buyers, and they have a couple rental properties in the area, it gives them a safer house. Meaning, because they're going to be getting a mortgage based on $66,000 for $78,000, their monthly payments will be lower. It's going to be safer for them, and when they have it rented, they'll make more each month than they would have otherwise. Also for the investor, if he sells it for $66,000 and he has $66,000 into it, what's the tax ramifications of that? None. He has $66,000 in it. He sells it for $66,000. No tax ramifications. Here's a question for you. What if he agreed to sell the property for $55,000 instead of $65,000 or $66,000? Wouldn't that be a loss? Can he use that loss against his income, earned income taxes? Could. So if the buyer buys a property at closing, so he's buying the property now at below market at $66,000, but at closing, he gives the investor an option to buy that property back at any time in the next 30 years. So that's going to be the option that the investor gets. But the one thing about the buyer wants to own this property for a number of years because they see the rents going up in that area, the area's coming on strong, and they don't necessarily want the investor to come in and buy it in the next 2 or 3 years. So what the investor is going to do is sit back and say, okay, every month, this is going to be to the buyers, every month you send us a check for $100. We'll not exercise the option for that month, And we'll do that for up to 5 years. Now, if you don't send the check for $100, we can exercise the option. But do you see where that's where the buyer can make an extra $6,000? Just by having the buyer send them a check not to exercise the option. Then at the end of the 5 years, and anytime after that for the next 25 years, the investor can exercise their option to buy that property. Now, if and when the investor does exercise their option to buy the property, then the profit, anything above the $78,000, anything when he sells a house, any profit above the $78,000, the investor and the buyer will split 50-50. So do you see where they both get part of the appreciation? But in this case, where the buyer is going to get a mortgage to buy the property for $66,000, as that mortgage pays down, the buyer gets all the amortization. So when the option is exercised, the balance on the mortgage is $46,000, then the buyer is going to get that $20,000 of pay down on that mortgage. And I know, if you're a newer investor, you're sitting there listening to me going, what is he talking about? Creative deal structuring is his own language. It's like learning Chinese. And you do this by being around it. You have to immerse yourself in it. And trust me, when I first got started, I didn't understand how to do any of these things. That's why I wanted you to go to our website. Okay, offer number 4. And this was a wholesaler also in Carolina. Don't know if it was North or South Carolina, I forget. Anyway, a seller had inherited a house. And the seller didn't want the house and just wanted the house gone. And so the wholesaler had advertised it, had it under contract. The wholesaler did not want to buy the property. He was going to assign the contract to a flipper who was going to buy the property, fix it up, and then turn around and sell it. The problem is the flipper, the wholesaler was selling to, the flipper's hard money lender, because of the pandemic, said we're not loaning right now. And so that flipper went away. And when the wholesaler went trying to find another buyer, he was having a tough time doing that. Again, with pandemic, it changed things. And all of a sudden, everybody's kind of going to the corner, taking a little bit of a back seat, waiting to see what's going to happen. And the wholesaler had a 45-day inspection period on this property, and the 45 days was running out. So if he didn't get it, the seller of the house already had a backup offer on that property. So the wholesaler would not get his $7,000 wholesale fee. And I should say that. The wholesaler's fee was going to be $7,000 whole US dollars. That's what he was going to make by, and this was a great property. A lot of equity, a lot of cash flow. And he was going to make $7,000 and steal away in the night. So when we talked, and well, anyway, let me stop there. In talking to the wholesaler, one of his long-term goals is to own rental property. It's to become an ender, someone who has the capital assets in place where they don't have to get up and go to work every day. So that's his goal. He's been wholesaling now for 3 years. Do you know how many rental properties he has? He's not kept any of the properties that he got under contract. Even the good ones, he let those go for a paycheck. In other words, he killed the goose that was laying the golden eggs for him. So as I talked to him, and this came to the realization, I said, wait, how would you structure this deal? You're talking to this young man. What would you do? How would you put this deal together? How would you make this deal work? Click it off, do your structure. Okay, so here's how we put the deal together. First off, for the wholesaler, instead of trying to sell the property, ask for owner financing, because the seller of the house really wanted to get rid of it and had made mentions of, yes, I wouldn't be against doing owner financing. How does that work? And he was going to get monthly checks, and he wasn't against that idea. And if the wholesaler was able to buy this property for the payments that he wanted to make, for the offer we put together, this property would cash flow for him $290 a month after expenses. $290, almost $300 a month, this house would pay him every month. And that's before we started increasing any rents over the course of time. And as a wholesaler, he got the tax benefits of owning a rental property. So again, that would help him keep more of the money that he's making through wholesaling, because the tax benefits from a rental property will help shelter some of that income. And best of all, the wholesaler is taking his very first step into becoming an ender. And to realize maybe it's better not to always be killing the goose that's laying the golden egg. Okay, last property. Okay, a doozy. So this is a straight option deal in Cartersville, Georgia. So this is one that I just structured, just put together. There was a homeowner, and this really kind of came from a banker. A banker called up. There's a person that has a little bit of weak credit. Well, not even weak credit, it's just he's been laid off. He'll get his job back. He has a good job. He works in one of the carpet mills here in the area. And so when they start back into production, he'll get his job back. So it wasn't weak credit, it's just a question, he doesn't have a job, so the bank cannot make him a loan. And they had been planning for 2 or 3 years, the family, and again, he's just a homeowner, but they've been planning for the last 2 or 3 years to buy a boat. There's a big lake here in Bartow County called Lake Altoona. And he wanted, his kids are now like 8, 9, 10 years old, and he wanted to build some family memories. He wanted a big pontoon boat where he could take it out on the lake on a regular basis, so his family could go out there and they could just have fun together on the lake. And they had planned to get it this spring. In fact, they were supposed to already have it in March. The problem is, because he can't get a loan, that dream has gone by the wayside. So anyway, the banker had said, you might want to give Bill a call. So when he called, we kind of talked it through. And he has a very nice home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. Actually, it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2-car garage. Nice home in a great subdivision in Cartersville. How would you structure this deal? He wants a pontoon boat. He doesn't want to sell his house. What would you do? When you're in a chaotic market, one of the best creative deal structures you can use, oh, by the way, click it off. You got to think this one through. In a chaotic market, one of the best creative deal structures you can use is a straight option. So not like a lease option, but just a straight option to purchase the property at some point in the future. And Kim and I did this a lot from 2007 to 2011-12. And the best time to get a purchase option is from someone who does not want to sell their home. They want to keep it. So in this case, he wanted to keep his home, but he wanted a pontoon boat. So here's how we put it together. We determined by talking to the neighbors and seeing what was going on in the neighborhood that his house is probably worth in the neighborhood of $230,000 today, right now. And he was going to give me an option to buy his home anytime in the next 15 years for what it is worth today. So that's the $230,000. In exchange, I'll give him a boat, a pontoon boat, that's agreeable to him. So he likes the pontoon boat. So I give him the pontoon boat that he can use starting right now. Then I'm going to be able to all I'm going to walk away with is an option, but on that option, the purchase price is going to be $230,000, but over the course of time, as that house goes up in value, I'm going to capture all that appreciation. So I have 15 years in which to exercise that option. The problem was, he looked and said, I have kids in school, and it's going to be at least 6 years before my youngest is out of high school. And I don't want to move from here because I like the school district and I like the neighborhood for the 6 years. So he thought the deal wouldn't work. And I said, okay, I will agree to not exercise the option for 7 years, provided we go from a 15-year option to a 20-year option. So now it's a 20-year option to buy the property for the $230,000, and in return, he gets a pontoon boat. So when we do this, understand, I didn't make him a loan to get a pontoon boat. I gave him a pontoon boat. This is one of the great things with options. I'm not loaning the homeowner money. They're not increasing debt on the house. They're not going to make monthly payments. They don't owe me the pontoon boat back. It's theirs. It's theirs to use. It's theirs to go build memories with. It's theirs to take care of. If he wants to turn around 3 days later and sell it and put the cash in his pocket, he can do that. The pontoon boat is his. This is not any type of loan. This isn't about Dodd-Frank. This is just going to be an option. And again, the option consideration, we did this I think on the first deal, was not cash. It was a boat. So the consideration has to be something that the optionor, the person who's given the optionor considers of value to the optionor. In this case, it was a boat. So the next question you're going to have is, how on earth did I go find a pontoon boat? That's the easiest of all. You would not believe when you're going through a neighborhood, and if you see a pontoon boat or any type of boat in the driveway, or jet skis, or a camper, or a motorcycle, a motorhome, whatever it is that you see, you would be shocked how many of those are for sale. They're just sitting there not being used. And the husband's wife is like waggling the finger at the husband saying, you got to get rid of these things, you got to do something with it. And all of a sudden you show up, and let's say the pontoon boat is worth $15,000, but you offer $3,000 just to take it away. You would be shocked how many people say yes. So usually my approach is, if I knock on the door, I'll back up my 10 paces, and I'll sit back and say, I've got a silly question for you, and I may be at the wrong house, but a friend of mine told me that someone who had a pontoon boat in this neighborhood was thinking about selling it. Is this that pontoon boat? Now remember, there's no for sale sign on it. You'd be shocked how many times that whoever I'm talking to, especially if it's a wife, goes, yes it is. Yes it is for sale. That was us. I can't believe you heard about it. Yes, it's for sale. And that's how I find things like motorcycle and pontoon boats. So in the end, if this deal gets taken care of, think what's happened. The homeowner, without having to borrow any money, is going to be able to have a pontoon boat to be able to go do family memories, because that's what the homeowner wanted. What the seller of the pontoon boat wanted was to get this thing out of the driveway, and they got a little bit of cash for that. So they're going to be happy. And what I wanted was to be able to get an option on the property where I can buy this home for $230,000 sometime in the next 20 years. And that works for us. So that's how you put together deals. I've been busy this week working on a new options course. And also I'm getting ready for a seminar that I'm teaching with Vena Jones-Cox in May. I haven't even had time to get together and go do any door knocking. So these are 5 deals I've done this week. My question for you is, how many written offers have you made this week? How many deals have you structured this week? Remember, the cheese has moved. You saw 5 different ways an offer can be put together based on what I'm being told by the parties involved. And again, go back and look through these again. And I know that creative deal structuring is a hard language to learn. But if you really want to learn the language, you'll do what it takes. And again, that's immersing yourself in it and going to the classes where they're teaching creative deal structuring by people who've done this for a long time. And that said, I told you that Vena and I are going to be doing a class May. It's going to be Saturday, May 9th. Now, because of the pandemic, this will now be a webinar. So it'll be on Saturday for 4 hours, and then that Monday through Friday, 2 hours a night. It's going to be recorded so you can come back and watch it. If you miss a night, you can come back and see it. So anyway, it begins on Saturday, May 9th, 2020. The price is going to be $697 for one person and $897 for 2 people. And to get more information about it or to sign up, you want to go to Central Ohio REIA, centralohiorea.com. Just remember, you're paying for the course whether you come or not. If you don't understand the language of creative deal structuring, how many deals do you think you're walking by on a regular basis? On the 5 deals you saw today, how many of those deals did you know how to structure? How many of the times did you look at it and say, there's really nothing there to even be had? It's a language. So you pay for the courses, whether you take them or not. So when will you start learning the language of creative deal structuring? It really is up to you. Because when we all start out, we're the dumbest investor in the room. God knows I was. But you get to decide whether 10 years later or 15 years later, you'll be the smartest investor in the room. But it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of kitchen tables, a lot of offers, a lot of learning, a lot of classes, a lot of being around other deal-making investors. I hope you choose to do that. Take care. Have a great day. Get out and make some written offers. Love you guys. Oh, and if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. My name is Bill Cook, Phone number 770-815-8727. Bye-bye.